And we talked all about the fact that moms have certain benefits and rights when it comes to breastfeeding in the workplace and outside the workplace, but they can get a no-cost pump through their insurance. And so many of them here, I know, have gotten their pump through insurance. And that's something that you are eligible to get when you're pregnant. And people just don't realize that they can call or go on right online to a company like Byram, a medical supply company, where you can just get that pump. It takes like 15 minutes. And you just fill out the form, and you give them your insurance information, and they're going to send you a pump within like 4 to 7 days in most cases. Your eyes are okay?
I'm just like a jalapeno pepper pirate, apparently.
You do look like
it's okay, but every now and then it kind of comes back. So we're just going to roll with it. If I have to do one of these and one I really,
I'll just keep talking.
It'll be all right.
Yeah.
I also would like to say, how come you always look put together and I get on here and I'm just like.
You want to know why I look put together tonight? Because I was filming all afternoon. So I already had my makeup on. I'm filming the new Simply Breastfeeding program right now. I just did chapter 6, 7, and 8 today. And this program is launching probably next week. So I am super excited to get this out. It is going to be a free class. So Simply Breastfeeding is free. And this class that I'm filming is going to be like the best ever. So I'm pretty excited. I've been wanting to refilm this for like a long time, many years, you know. And so I've just been like full force. So Joe and I were filming, and I'm in my studio right now.
That's awesome.
That's why I have my makeup on like that.
Somebody said they went through Byram quick, easy, and no issues. So
yeah, no,
that's the point.
Really good.
I think a lot of people don't understand, and it's one thing I always talk about. People assume they go through their insurance company, to get their pump, and you don't do that.
No, it's not the best way.
Yeah,
it's not the best way. And they're not going to send you a pump unless they can take your insurance, of course. So it's great to just reach out, see what you can get. And, just really quickly, the benefits that you're entitled to the no cost pump. Also, a lot of the companies cover accessories as well. And then you're also eligible for lactation support. And a lot of moms don't know that either, like lactation services prenatally and postnatally, to be able to get support from a lactation consultant. So that's something that your insurance should be covering at no cost. And then lastly, you need to know your legal rights when it comes to going back to work. Employers are required to provide you with pump break times for pumping while you're at work, that are, separate than your lunch hour and all these other things. And also a closed room with a lock and a door. And you should never be pumping in the bathroom. Okay. Nobody should be pumping in a toilet stall. So you should be getting that room, and also running water and a refrigerator. Did you know that?
I didn't know about running water. I knew about the refrigerator.
Running water, refrigerator, access to running water and a refrigerator, and a closed door with a lock and shades on the windows.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm assuming the running water just so you can like rinse and take care of cleaning stuff if you want.
Yeah, totally. So these are some of the benefits that people just don't understand that they're entitled to. And the survey that they did this year they surveyed about 1,000 women, working women who were breastfeeding or had used a breast pump. And it was really kind of distressing to see some of the results of it. Like I think it was like 1 in 5 weren't aware of their benefits. So like about 18% were the only ones that knew that there were actually these 3 benefits. And there were about 11% of the survey didn't know they had any rights at all when it came to breastfeeding. So if people just don't know that they have these benefits and that there are legal protections in place, they're not going to be empowered to be able to continue breastfeeding or speak up for themselves. And what was really upsetting was to see that, more than half of them had their hours at work cut, even though they didn't want their hours cut. Like 53% of the 1,000 women that were surveyed had their workload altered because they were new moms, even though they didn't ask for it. And 66% said they experienced frustration or embarrassment because people were walking in on them, making rude comments to them while they were at work, and being asked to pump or breastfeed somewhere else.
Speaking of, Beth Mack just left a comment that in 2010, PetSmart made her pump in the sick animal room, and she quit not long thereafter.
Yeah, and this is happening. Like, this is just another form of discrimination against women and harassment. I mean, it's harassment in the workplace. And so then when I saw these results, I just thought to myself, oh my God, like, this is what moms are going through. It's such a hard time already. They're so vulnerable already. And how hard can it be? It's hard to talk to your employer about breastfeeding and pumping and all this, but they're not being supported. I mean, this was not like a small percentage, 66%.
Good Lord.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's really important that we talk about it. And so the download that I was talking about was if you click the link, you'll get a message from me, and you can go in and download this Working Mom's Guide to Breastfeeding toolkit that I helped
them. Sunday. Listen, it's Sunday night. We're gonna have word vomit.
Oh God. Anyway, so you can download the toolkit. It has like really great all your rights in there. It has a little pocket guide you could stick in your pump bag. It has some tips and really good information from me about pumping and going back to work. So really good.
Yeah. A couple of people have been asking, what do you do if your employer does not offer that stuff?
If they have 50 or plus, or if they have 50 plus employees, and you're an hourly worker, like eligible for overtime type of hourly worker, then this is federal law. Okay, if they have under 50 employees, they're not obligated to do that. But it's for employers with 50 plus employees, and for employees who are hourly.
Interesting.
So what do you do about it if they're not doing that? You need to speak to HR, and you need to make everybody aware of the law. You know, it's not easy. It's not easy. But this is also one of the things that is on the chopping block right now with the ACA. And people need to understand that they're getting their breast pumps, you know, covered by insurance. We have lactation services covered by insurance with the Affordable Care Act. These are all great things that help moms to breastfeed. And that's on the chopping block. And so we need to like make sure that that doesn't go away.
Yeah. There you have it. So do you want to go through like a few questions now, or like what do you want to do?
I would love to go through some questions.
What if you are a salaried employee? You're still entatled as a salaried employee.
You're not entitled to the same thing. No, you're not.
Really?
You're not. No, it's not covered if you're a salaried employee. But you should speak to your employer, and usually you can work something out, but it does not cover salaried employees.
This is so wild.
There's all kinds of ins and outs, and that's why it's really important that you get knowledgeable. I mean, moms know what their rights are, one way or the other. You know, and that's why having it all put together for you, because most just don't. Like, where are you going to get this from if you're not getting it from your employer, which they're not giving out the information, and then they're not teaching even other employees in the company? Like, everyone needs to be aware.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. They're not salaried employees and contractors not covered by the laws.
So salaried. Yeah. That's crazy to me.
Yeah. It's hourly.
All right. I'm going to open up some questions. I won't be able to see you for a second while I read.
Yeah.
So let's just do this. Let's see. Keisha has a question. How do you make your baby latch correctly? Some people say it's normal for it to hurt while breastfeeding, and others say it's not done correctly if it does hurt.
So interesting. I just filmed this into one of the chapters just today. So it's interesting to hear this question put this way. So the idea that breastfeeding, it's okay for it to hurt. Let me just say this right now. Breastfeeding shouldn't hurt. If it hurts, something's not right. Okay. Now, I know there's a lot of people out there who are going to say sometimes it hurts and it's totally normal. And it's true. You might be a little more sensitive right in the beginning. If you might feel sensitive, it might hurt a little, but if you're in pain, you should not be in pain. Breastfeeding should not cause pain. And typically it comes from just an improper latch. to the breast, unless there's another underlying issue. But usually it's a slight adjustment to your latch that can make all the difference, like having the head tilted. The baby's head needs to be tilted back when they're nursing, not down. And so often when moms come in to see me for consultation, it's like that little adjustment of tilting their head up versus this way, and everything fixes and corrects because the baby could come closer onto the breast.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, and you always say it, you know, and I actually said it in my course. It's not breastfeeding. It's not nipple feeding.
Nipple feeding.
It's breastfeeding, right?
Yeah.
So the breast needs to actually be really far back in the baby's mouth. And so often, because of the way that we're either holding the baby, positioning the baby, or latching, we're not getting a deep enough latch on. And so, or the head's not tilted back, the tongue's not leading. You know, if you're leading with the baby's hard palate by the head being down versus the head being up and the tongue leading, it's going to cause pain. You can't get that nipple far back in the baby's mouth. Okay. So if it hurts, I would get support right away. You know, get support to either correct the latch. Even sometimes with all the fixing of the latch, there's other issues that are happening. For example, you know, if you got a lot of IV fluids in labor, okay, during the labor process, all those IV fluids from inductions and epidurals and from C-sections and all the reasons why we get IV fluids can cause a lot of swelling of the breast tissue. And I don't think we've talked about this very much, but that swelling of the breast tissue causes your nipples. It causes a lot of the engorgement that you see. The engorgement from all that swelling can cause your nipples to really flatten out and the breast to be so tight and tense so that there's no softening where the baby can't actually latch on. They're just like right on the tip of the nipple. And so that's going to cause pain. So it's really important to understand that some of these labor interventions, like especially the excessive IV fluids, really is a problem, you know, for breastfeeding, can really be a problem. So when you think of like, what are the consequences of more labor intervention on breastfeeding, that's one of them. And then lastly, you know, the baby could have tongue or lip ties that can cause pain when you're nursing. And so again, that's why it's so important to get that pain evaluated. You know, could it just be that it's a small latch issue? Yes. And will over time, if you practice and keep practicing, will it get better? Probably. But what if it's more than that? You know, and by not being able to latch well, if you're not latched well, you're not getting the milk out. And when you're not getting the milk out, your milk will start to decrease. You're going to have a decreased milk production. So it's just this like spiral that can happen. And so I tell moms that if breastfeeding hurts, get help. You know, and I think that when sometimes you'll hear people say, no, don't tell people that breastfeeding hurts because then they think that's not normal, you know, and it's normal. I'm not saying stop breastfeeding. I'm saying just find out what's going on. You know, we're not saying don't breastfeed. Of course we breastfeed, still breastfeed, but you should be enjoying this. Like if it's painful and you're miserable, it's not supposed to be like that.
Yeah. You know what's interesting? Just because you know I get on a tangent. Mm-hmm. Not you. Not me. The New York Times now has a New York Times parenting section, and they have their own Instagram account. And they've been putting out some really interesting stuff lately. Yeah. And they actually found these old news headlines about actually, I will just go look at real quick about back in the day when, you know, doctors really started to promote breastfeeding as more of the biological norm. Yeah. You know, obviously. Yeah. But it is from 1947. And experts oppose bottle feeding, and there's this whole thing. They misspelled newest, by the way, with 2 T's. Mm-hmm. But then it goes into another article. Nursing a baby is put up to mother. Breastfeeding is held best, but she should have free choice. The pediatrician interviewed in this set. So
in 1947.
Interesting.
Yeah. Interesting. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then things really went downhill as they got into the 60s.
Yeah.
I mean, it just, and you know, you kind of, in some ways, you kind of understand why it went that direction. You know, it was like women were starting to want to feel more empowered and free. And I think that we went in some of the wrong directions, not really understanding that some of this was really something we wanted to own. Like being able to breastfeed and make our own choices is different than saying, well, I don't need to do any of it. So, it always circles around. But, I feel like now women are now with the internet, women have the ability to learn more and really advocate for themselves. And, even from when I think back, like even 20, 25 years ago, when we didn't have the internet and I was taking care of patients, and they had to rely on us and our limited knowledge in so many ways, to give them all their information. Now women just are able to really learn and find other experts, like even doing this tonight, and advocate for themselves, which I love.
Yeah, so that's one of the things I like most about the interwebs.
Me too.
Is you can find some really good information, but then you can also read stuff that makes you want to run into the hills screaming.
It all depends on where you go to read.
Let me see here, Tammy. Let me see here. Is it normal, Kristen says, is it normal for my 2-month-old to want to breastfeed nonstop?
It all depends on does she mean literally nonstop, or does she just mean it feels like the baby's nursing nonstop? So let's just identify which would be normal and which would be not normal. Okay. So if the baby is literally nursing nonstop, meaning not sleeping at all, just nursing and crying, then no, that's not normal. And it could be a problem with a milk supply issue. All right. So that needs to be looked at. Babies should be able to nurse, even if it's frequently, even if it's like cluster feeding. Okay. But they should be able to get satisfied at the breast at some point and be able to sleep and come back. And so I'm kind of not sure what she means by that. And I don't want to overlook the fact that she might actually be saying that the baby's nursing nonstop. That needs to be evaluated. But there's also the idea that a baby can feel like they're nursing nonstop, especially when they're going through a growth spurt. And babies go through growth spurts at like around 2 to 3 weeks or 3 months, 6 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, around 6 weeks, 3 months, and 6 months. And what it looks like and feels like is that they feel like they're never going to stop nursing. They want to nurse every hour. There's just, in a very normal way, there isn't enough milk because the baby's growing and demanding more of the breast. And so as long as they're still continuing to have good wet diapers and poopy diapers, and you see all that coming out, okay, all the good stuff's coming out, that means all the good stuff's going in. And that's really how you're identifying if your baby's doing well and getting enough milk. It's not really about how frequently they're eating. And especially in a growth spurt where they could be eating every hour. That typically doesn't last more than just a couple of days, if that. Because once you keep demanding more and draining the breast frequently by nursing a lot, your body's going to respond really quickly and make a ton more milk. And so you get over it quickly. The last thing you want to do during a growth spurt is supplement or pull out the milk from the freezer. It's never going to give your body the signal that it actually needs to make more. And the babies also cluster feed, especially 2-month-old, they'll still cluster feed. That's sort of like, have you guys experienced that early evening or dinner time where the baby just like wants to eat constantly and like just crying and wanting to eat? That's the cluster feeding where they're just wanting to like eat, and then they sleep for a longer stretch. Sometimes, maybe yes.
Does that also apply to adults?
Yes, definitely. Just want to eat, and then go to sleep, right? So babies definitely have those cluster feedings, and it can feel like that's all they want to do. I want you guys to just always keep looking at their wet and their poop diapers, all right? Especially their wet diapers as they get older. Sometimes breastfed babies can go quite a few days without pooping. They can go almost a week without pooping once they hit around 6 weeks old and more.
We were worried because I think it was Grayson was not pooping.
Yeah.
And, the twins never went through that phase where they didn't poop. But obviously I have you in my phone because I've known you for a decade.
Yeah.
And I was like, is this normal? Like Grayson hasn't pooped at all. And you're like, yep. breastfed babies, like you absorb the nutrients. And so it's a very normal thing for babies not to poop.
It really is. In the first few weeks, they should be pooping. And especially those first 2 weeks, all breastfed babies should be pooping a lot. That's how you're actually telling that they're getting enough milk right in the beginning. But as they get to a couple weeks old and beyond, they could go quite a long time without it. So
just really quick, because it's here, and I know that sometimes questions get lost.
We're getting a whole bunch of questions here in the chat. Go ahead.
Lauren has a question. She's so excited to be able to ask. Her local latch group didn't answer her. Her 7.5-month-old is down to 2 to 3 minutes per side, including unlatching and relatching multiple times, regardless of whether there are obvious distractions or not. She's doing baby-led weaning and only eating 1 meal a day so far. I'm pretty confident that's not interfering. Is this developmentally appropriate? She's never had an issue gaining weight and was 18 pounds, 6 ounces a little over a week ago. Do I only need to worry if she's not gaining enough weight? She seems totally happy, but she's stressing her mama out with these short nursing sessions.
Lauren, I would not stress at all over this, okay? First of all, babies' feedings get shorter and shorter as they get older. And so 5-minute feeding for an 8.5-month-old could be a whole entire feeding. I mean, that's it. They really don't need to nurse very long to get quite a bit of milk.
And it's because they're getting more efficient.
They're getting efficient. Yeah, like the feedings. And this is where, it gets easier to breastfeed as they get older. In the beginning, those feedings take a long time. Newborns eat slower. They take longer to eat. But then as the baby grows, and then I'll always get the calls like, I don't think my baby's eating enough. They're only eating for 5 minutes, exactly like she's saying. And you cannot tell. So you can't tell how much a baby's eating based on the clock. All right. That is not an accurate way to determine the quantity of a feeding or the quality of a feeding. We're not looking at the clock ever because the feedings get shorter and yet they're getting more milk. Or in this case, the baby, I'm pretty sure that her baby would eat more if she was hungrier. Okay. So if that's all she's doing and she's latching and then unlatching, totally normal. And, is this all the fluid that she's getting? If this is all the fluid she's getting and she's peeing and she's hydrated and she's happy and she's gaining weight, and, I would say that it's all really, really normal. Sometimes what does happen after 6 months is you can get your period back again. And when that happens, your milk supply can drop a little bit. You may start ovulating again. Your milk supply can drop just a little, and that can cause the baby to latch and relatch and try to keep going back. It's sort of like what happens during a growth spurt. But again, as long as you just keep offering the breast and making it available, everything should be fine. I would not worry at all. She's doing baby-led weaning. Just make sure that you're offering and only eating 1 meal a day. Yeah. So yeah, obviously getting enough milk, or you would know.
Okay.
Yeah. Obviously. You can't tell from the time. You just can't tell from the time.
No. And I was actually going to bring that up because I got into an argument on Twitter with someone.
Oh yeah. Never.
And it was about somebody just saying you should be just doing timed feedings on each side. And I know from working with you and speaking with you for so long, that's not necessarily the best route to go. No. In fact, that really creates so many problems. It creates a problem in both directions. What I've seen is that you've got a newborn. When you first have your baby, babies are sleepy, and even when you're doing skin to skin and everything to keep them nursing, and that's how you're going to keep them more alert and more awake and more latching to the breast, keep doing more skin to skin. But even still, babies are sleepy. And so this whole idea that they're going to latch for 20 minutes on each side and that everyone's trying to document and make sure that they're doing that much, like as if that's really telling you how much the baby got. It's such crap. Like it doesn't work like that. And then as they get older, when the feedings are, shorter, it's not telling you whether they got enough milk or didn't get enough milk. I mean, it can also cause you to try to nurse evenly on both breasts when most babies won't nurse evenly on both breasts. And sometimes it's even preferred for them not to.
So this idea that like, okay, do 10 minutes on this side and then do 10 minutes on the other side. You know, when you first have your baby and your milk is and your breasts are really full, there's something called foremilk-hindmilk. So just when the breast is really full is something to think about, because the milk that's first coming out is like a foremilk or a watery, lower calorie, lower fat milk. And as the baby drains the breast, what's behind it is more hind milk. And so if you watch the clock, instead of allowing the baby to continue to feed on one side, what can happen is you can give the baby a lot of foremilk from both sides. Like, so you feed a little bit, you watch the clock, you're like, okay, let me switch. You switch to the other side, you feed a little bit, and now the baby's peeing a lot and showing you all the signs that they got enough. But when you go to weigh them, they're really not gaining as much. And that can happen from just watching the clock and not just allowing the baby to finish a side first. I typically say, let them nurse on one side. As long as that side, you're hearing lots of swallowing. When the swallowing starts to slow down, switch sides and do the other side. You probably won't do it for as long. And then the next feeding, you start on the one you ended with.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, Diana says it's what their pediatrician told her was the time nursing. And, you know, pediatricians, I don't think any of them have like, you know, ill will towards a baby, but they're not trained in like breastfeeding science. And that's what this is. And it's, you know, it is a very well-known pediatrician that I got into an argument with. So
pediatricians are not typically trained in breastfeeding very much. I mean, they get very little education. I think it's starting to change a little with some of the newer ones coming out of medical school, but even then it's not a lot. But if you had a pediatrician that went to school, I think before like 1978, they had zero education. And then after that, I think it was like 2 hours, like literally nothing. And so this is where you'll see some of these really crazy, like, recommendations that are like not founded in any lactation physiology that I've ever heard of. Okay. We all like things that are just common knowledge that we're hearing, like you're saying, like timed feedings and all these things. That I had a mom, she's actually a friend of mine, reach out to me last week. And she's like, Shari, I have a 4-month-old and my pediatrician, when I'm back to work and my milk supply has dropped significantly. And I asked her what was going on. She's like, well, I went for my well baby check, and the doctor told me that the baby shouldn't really be waking up during the night to feed anymore and to stop the nighttime feedings. And I said, okay, but did the baby decide that the baby didn't want nighttime feeding? She goes, yes, she keeps waking up and crying. And then I rock her and hold her and she screams for an hour. She's like, it's so stressful, you know, because he's telling me that the baby shouldn't eat. And her milk supply is dropping while she's at work. And I said, what are you doing? I said, feed the baby. How do you feel doing that? She said, it doesn't feel right. I said, you've got to listen to your instinct. Something's telling you that's not right. And it's not right. Okay. And that's why your supply is down. And so she went back to feeding at night. And within 3 days, her supply was right back again. And she said, it's so much easier to just feed the baby. Of course. So just to your point of like really crazy advice. You know, I'll tell you, there are 3 ways to know that you have a really good breastfeeding friendly pediatrician. What you want to know is that they're using the right World Health Organization growth charts to measure your baby against. Okay, so that's number 1. And that means that they're measuring your breastfed baby against other breastfed babies around the world. All right, and that's the WHO growth charts. So you want to ask about that. You also want to know that they're recommending exclusive breastfeeding. You know, just saying I promote breastfeeding. Who's not going to say that? You know, who's not going to be for breastfeeding? Of course they're going to say that. But are they really recommending exclusive breastfeeding? Meaning, are they going to, like, at a drop of a hat, tell you need to supplement? Now, if you choose to supplement, that's one thing. But if they're going to keep recommending that you do, then that's not a breastfeeding friendly pediatrician. And the third thing is, you know, you have a good breastfeeding friendly pediatrician if they're either trained in lactation, meaning they're an IBCLC themselves, or they refer you to one the minute there is any kind of problem rather than trying to give you advice themselves. Mm-hmm. That's a good pediatrician. That's when I know there's a good one, is when they're like, I'll give you a number.
Yeah. And obviously it's like people ask me about stuff all the time. Mm-hmm. And I'm not a medical human being. Mm-hmm. I know baby gear. I have a broad knowledge of breastfeeding and some other stuff because I've been doing this for 15 years.
Mhm.
But it's, you know, if I'm always like, nope, I don't know this, I'm not going to give you a wrong answer. This is a resource for you. This is a resource for you. This is a resource, because you have to farm it out. You don't want to give bad info.
One of those things that you really have to be careful who you're taking your advice from, you know, and you know, that's why I work so hard to provide really good information and access to this. You know, that's why the class that I'm filming right now and the one that I had before, it's free. I mean, I think that all moms deserve to have this kind of information and basic knowledge. This is just basic. I mean, we're not even talking like getting into like working and pumping. We're talking about basic information like the things that we're discussing tonight. You're not going to get it from your doctors, unfortunately. You're just not, you know, and so many people are just getting so much misinformation. So, you know. Did you guys all hear about the prize tonight? Because I want to make sure that they all enter. There's a link in this post, and it's for the Sarah Wells pump bag. I have one. This is not the color that we're doing. I think we're doing La Floral, but this is not the La Floral. This is the Sarah Wells bag, and it's awesome. I have this here. So if you guys want to win the bag, just click the link, and you'll get entered.
Get a cute bag for your pump. Come on now.
Really cute. I love it. I've been using it.
And I love her.
Yeah.
So it's like when you have somebody good behind a company, it's just like
so nice. Now I have one giveaway going on my Facebook page right now, and then one that we're going to do for tonight. So there's actually 2 you can win.
Cool. Danielle has put this question up a couple times, so I want to make sure we get to her.
Sure.
I've got a great stash saved up, and I'm ready to start weaning my 7-month-old for multiple reasons. I'm nursing only AM and PM, and I pump 2 to 3 times per day. I've had mastitis twice, and I want to avoid that again. I bet you do. What are your best suggestions?
To avoid mastitis. Yeah. How old's the baby? 7 months, did you say?
7 months.
7 months. Yeah, you know, typically what could be causing, and mastitis is not always a breast infection. So let me just say that, because we kind of use those terms interchangeably, like mastitis and infection. And sometimes what we're talking about is inflammation that doesn't require antibiotic treatment or anything like that, but just requires you to keep emptying your breast. Sometimes it's most likely being caused by a plugged duct that is not being dealt with or handled. I would start to look at what is it that is causing possibly those plugged ducts and the milk to actually get trapped in the breast tissue. Is it long? Did she say she's feeding how often?
She's nursing only morning and night, so I don't know how many times.
It seems like she's going long stretches in between without feeding, and that could be causing the issue. Some people can do that, and your milk will adapt to how often you're feeding, but others, you'll have that milk in the breast that could cause, it's the pressure, it's the buildup of the milk that causes pressure on that breast tissue, and that's causing that inflammation. In addition to that, when the breast starts to get really full from not emptying, now all of a sudden your bras, and if you're wearing underwire at all, or even if you're not, but just especially with underwire, it could start to dig into the breast tissue, and that's what can cause those plugged ducts, and then that can lead to inflammation and then to mastitis infection. Also, if you are baby wearing and you are, anything that's putting pressure on the breast and you're not emptying. So like the straps from the carrier, sometimes that can cause it, or a diaper bag that you're carrying or on your shoulder. So anything, just look to see what could be causing you to, I've adapted, no mastitis for 3 months, but scarred, wanting to wean. Yeah, you've got to look at what's causing that pressure on the breast, and maybe you're just somebody who needs to be pumping in between just a little bit to relieve that pressure.
Well, she said she does pump 2 to 3 times
during the day,
aside from the feedings.
Yeah, it could be that she's just going too long, or something is causing that plug. I believe there's some kind of plug that's happening there, and it could be deep in the breast tissue that she's not feeling it. I'm not sure if she's noticing it or not, but sometimes you can have a plugged duct from pressure. Sometimes you just have Some women are just more susceptible to plug ducts. There's different things that you can do. There's like sunflower lecithin that can help to thin out and cause the milk to not be so thick and causing plugs. But that's probably what's going on.
Okay.
Emptying is the best thing. Emptying frequently.
What is the in terms of if you have a plugged duct?
Mm-hmm.
What I've just been reading questions, so you may have even talked about this.
Yeah.
In terms of eliminating that plugged duct, what is the best strategy for like something a mother can do to be like, I need to do this and this and this to get rid?
Well, the best thing, first of all, is to identify it early. So I tell moms, like when they're nursing, they should feel their breast. You don't want to wait till you actually have pain or redness or it turns into mastitis. So you want to just do, when you're nursing, feel around on your breast, feel for any lumps, feel for any hard spots that you feel on the breast. And when the baby's nursing or when you're pumping is really the best time to kind of massage it. You could even apply some moist heat to it. And that's going to help the breast to clear out and to get that plug to clear. Waiting and not doing that makes it worse. And then that's when the backup occurs of the milk. And that's when that inflammation occurs in the breast tissue. So identify it early, massage it, and kind of in a circular motion as the baby is nursing, and apply some moist heat too. If you keep getting recurring plug ducts, it's what we were just talking about. Look for reasons of why that's happening. Does it keep happening on one side? I've had lots of moms who have recurrent plug ducts on one side, and when I ask them, what side do you sleep on at night? Okay, they tell me they sleep on their left side and the plugs are always on the left side. And it's the fact that, they have more milk during the night, the baby's starting to sleep longer during the night, and they're putting a lot of pressure on that one side. So again, it's like, what side do you sleep on? Are you carrying a diaper bag? Are you wearing a baby carrier? Because that can really cause pressure on breast tissue. And so those are the things that cause it. But moist heat, massage, frequent pumping and feeding are all the ways that will help to drain those plugs. And then if you are somebody who gets recurrent plugs, there's different types of supplements that you could take.
Awesome. Jessica has another question related to mastitis, because it's mastitis themed Sunday for a little bit. How do I avoid mastitis as an overproducer?
It's the same thing. It's first of all, if you're an overproducer, I would try to decrease the supply a little bit. If you're getting mastitis, so some people can overproduce and they have no problem at all. And there are some of the best mamas who, make a ton of milk, wind up pumping and donating a whole bunch of milk, being able to have that extra. But I always say, if you're an overproducer, you don't want to continue on that path if you're getting sick. So if you're getting mastitis from it, it's probably something you want to start to try to decrease that supply. Having an overproduction is typically something that, it starts off with a lot of milk. And so you start pumping a lot and you're like, okay, so I pump 8, 10, 12 ounces at a seating, and now I produce so much. But if it's causing mastitis, I would start to wean down the amount that I don't think you're doing it with just breastfeeding. We don't typically see overproduction to that extent with just breastfeeding, because the baby's only going to eat what the baby eats. And then over time, if the baby's not eating that much, your supply will start to naturally decrease. But if you're pumping in between feeding sessions, then that could be causing it. And I would start weaning some of that milk down if you're getting sick from it.
I'm just looking for some questions here. People are leaving a lot of questions, which is good.
A lot of questions. And if you guys want me to answer more of these questions, I'm going to be doing a Q&A tomorrow with Helen from Fairhaven. We'll be doing on storage, milk storage, and then another one on Wednesday over on my page with Lisa Palladino. We're going to be talking about difficulty latching. She's another midwife and lactation consultant. So we're doing like a ton of questions and answers this week for well breastfeeding. And I'm also, Jamie, can I just tell you? So we're launching the membership site a week from today.
Awesome.
We have 4 days of open cart from Sunday to Wednesday. And we will be taking just a small group of people in for about 60 days to test out the site and to watch all the programs and watch the library and work with us. And it's going to be amazing. And it's going to be Miss Dawn and I. So there you go. We're talking about it, and you're hearing it first time right here. So we're going to be going on tomorrow to talk about it some more. But if anybody wants to join us, I'm super excited. We're going to be doing feeding from every kind of feeding you can imagine. I'm hungry. I'm hungry just thinking about it.
I'm grilling after this. I'm very excited to grill. I was going to read this one quick. Shari Sanderson. Yes. How to correct a foremilk-hindmilk imbalance. I nursed the same breast 2 feedings in a row. Still not much. Lots of pee, diapers, and poop every 30 to 60 minutes. But it's a bright green, like a cartoon color.
Yeah, the reason, let's talk about why it's green. You know, we were talking earlier about the fact that when the breast is really full, what comes out first is that foremilk, that very watery, low-calorie, low-fat milk. And then what comes out behind it is the hindmilk that's more like the cream with the higher calorie and the fat in it. If your baby is getting a lot of foremilk without a lot of fat, breast milk has an enormous amount of lactose in it, about 10 times the amount of lactose that cow's milk has. That's why it's so sweet. Lactose is the milk sugar. And so breast milk is extremely sweet because it's 10 times more than what you would get in regular cow's milk. That's what, because human babies have big brains. It's the biggest part. It's the part that's growing fastest about your baby is their brain. And sugar feeds the brain, and that's why human milk is so sweet. Okay. But that being said, lactose can be hard to digest without the fat. And so when you have a foremilk-hindmilk imbalance and there is less fat and all that lactose, they can have a problem digesting all of that. And you'll see that in that bright green poop that she's talking about.
Interesting.
Okay. And that's why the poop is green. And so the best way to deal with it is to keep, like she's doing, nurse on one side, block feeding, where you're nursing on one side more to try to get the supply to come down. It's back to the same question we were just talking about, which is this oversupply issue. Okay. And that seems to be the theme for tonight, is this oversupply. Typically we're talking about low milk supply. Tonight we're talking about all this oversupply. And the truth is that oversupply can be more of an issue for some people than it could be a bigger problem than low milk supply, you know. And
that's one of the things it always comes up when we do this.
You're seeing it right here. You know, make sure, you guys, that you're not over pumping. All right. This is where it really causes. This is what causes it so often, is this over pumping, or this idea that, you know, you're supposed to be draining your breast. You know, you cannot drain the breast completely. The breast is never drained. The breast is never emptied. And so the idea that I have to pump till I drain it, that's not accurate. You know, you want to pump to relieve the pressure. You want to feed to the point to what your baby needs to eat. So your milk supply regulates to your baby. All right. But all this extra pumping can cause some big problems. And that's what I think that she's seeing. As far as hers, if the baby's not in pain and the baby's gaining weight, I wouldn't worry that much about it. Sounds like she's doing what she's supposed to do, which is try to stick to one side. That's the best way to prevent this from happening. Eventually, the milk supply will start to regulate and go down. And also check to see if there's anything else happening. It could also be a dairy sensitivity. So, you know, it could be that whatever she's eating, like if she's eating if she's eating any dairy in her diet, that could be affecting the baby. That could be making the poop green. It's irritating the bowel.
I've cut almost all dairy out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we don't drink milk.
I had no half and half this morning for my coffee, and I'm already at a point where I put very little in it. Like
I switched to coconut milk a long time ago, and
sometimes I do coconut milk.
Yeah, it's good. Oh, Jamie.
The only dairy I really eat is the cheese on the pizza.
Mm-hmm.
And that's about it.
Yeah. You don't eat that much cheese, though.
No, I don't. I hate it.
I really like cheese. Yeah. Except for pizza.
Mm-hmm. Pizza, lasagna, chicken parm.
That's the only thing I do. Cheese. That's the only dairy I eat. I like cheese.
Carly Henry she's old school around here from the great land of Canada, has a question. Tips on gently weaning. Weaning in general, she's 2 in a couple weeks, and I would love to try to just slow down. I love her milk. I'm not in a rush to stop, but feeling a bit touched out and would be okay with less nursing in my workday since I work from home.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the best way to wean is slowly. I mean, it's not something you want to do like in a decision overnight. And so it's something to start thinking about weeks in advance, if not months in advance. And weaning is really not an event. Weaning is a process. It's not an event that happens. So we actually start weaning our children the day we start feeding them any solid foods. It's the first step to weaning. That doesn't mean you're going to stop breastfeeding. You may breastfeed for years after they start solid foods. But as we start to introduce other things like solids or complementary foods, it's the first step to like your milk starting to decrease as the baby starts to take in other things. And so you want to do this slow. It's a process that cutting out one feeding at a time, going out with your child so that they're distracted and they're more out there. You're out somewhere and time can go by without skipping more than one feeding at a time. Again, going right back to what we were just discussing of like not allowing your breast to get too full, not allowing yourself to get too engorged or creating problems or mastitis, but just, slowly doing it. And even if you have to pump a little bit to relieve a little bit of pressure, do a little bit of pumping and slowly decrease. It's typically trying to, it's when you have a toddler that's nursing, it can be challenging. There's no arguing with a 2-year-old. And when they want it, I don't know how old her child is, but when
almost 2,
it's really hard. It's a hard time, to wean, because they don't understand. They know what they've had all this time and they want it. And so, I would just make sure that you're both ready and do it slowly. Just do it slowly. A little bit of time. Don't be too overly anxious, like this has to end tomorrow. It's not going to be healthy for you or the baby. The baby needs to get used to the process as well.
Yeah. I know a lot of women, like I obviously will not have this experience in my life, but it's like for a lot of women that I read their stuff online and I see them in person and friends and family of mine who have nursed. Yeah. It's a very emotional thing.
Oh,
when you feel like this chapter is now done.
Really, it is. It really is. And you can, sometimes you've been nursing for years, between one child right into the next. And, I've had, years of nursing and it's like, but then when it's over, when it finally is over, you miss it and you look back at it with, you went
like that.
Yeah, it went fast.
Speaking of, guess what happens Friday?
What happens Friday?
Beta starts kindergarten.
Oh my God. No. Really?
Real school.
Really?
Beta. Kindergarten.
Holy crap. She was just born. Yeah, well, my kid just walked in for like 10 minutes. I haven't seen her like the whole summer. She's staying at my mother's house and she has her own car now.
That's...
And she's driving on the highway back and forth to my mother's house.
That is insanity to me.
And let me tell you something for all you guys. The thing that's been the hardest is watching your child walk out the door with their own car for the first time and say bye. That was the hardest thing I ever had to do. I mean, really? I was happy for her, but I cried.
I mean, you were texting me like, she just left, the car got here, I'm a mess. Like,
I did. I cried. I was so I'm getting better now. But yeah, she's 17. My oldest is 17. And I feel like, and thinking of you guys right now, like all of you breastfeeding your babies and thinking about all these things. And I got to just tell you, like, when I think back to like the times that I was nursing them, and I have 2 daughters, and while I was nursing them, I was working full time and I had a business and it was hard. And I was running out in the middle of the night to the hospital to deliver babies. And it was an insane time with nursing kids. But I'm so happy that I did it. Like I look back right now with so much like pride and so much gratitude for what I did and that I was able to do it and then I stuck with it. And it's really, you know, now that I look at them, it's such a short time that of their life that, and I've to the time that I've been their mother, like I've been their mother for so much longer than that. And just glad I did it, like really glad I did it. And so, I mean, if I could say anything to all these, you know, mamas here with all these little ones, you will look back at this time and just be happy and grateful that you were able to provide this to your children. See, it's something only you could do, and you're doing it. It's a good job. It's not easy, but it's worth every minute.
Yeah.
It really is.
I've told you this story several times, but I'm sure there are people here who have not heard this. When I worked at a birth education center in New York, and I bring this up also because a lady had a question about how long should we breastfeed. Yeah. But I took my very first breastfeeding class from a lady in New York, Ayala Nelson, and she's wonderful and she's very smart and she's quite lovely. And at the end of the class, she looks around at the room and she's like, all right, so here's what we're going to do. I want you to make a promise to me. Breastfeed for the first day. Try it. And if you get through day one, try it for a second day. Mm-hmm. And when you get through day two, try it through a third. Mm-hmm. And it's just like you go day by day through the process. And I think that's also like how we should just approach a lot of stuff in life, to be honest.
Totally.
Every day, just get through it.
Totally.
And somebody asked her, how long should, they breastfeed their child? Mm-hmm. And she's like, breastfeeding, you can breastfeed as long as you want, as long as it is mutually agreeable between mother and child.
That's right.
So.
And that's so true. And there's never a time that it stops being beneficial to you or to them. This idea that once they hit a certain age, there's no benefit to the baby, it's not true. They continue to get all the benefits of breastfeeding for as long as you decide to do it. And even if it is for just a week or a month, it's better. Any breast milk is better than none at all. Mm-hmm. And so it's good for your baby, no matter how, and even if it's not exclusive breastfeeding, it doesn't matter, and even if you decide not to breastfeed, you're still a great mom. Yeah. This is not the end all, and like I said, it's a short window of time. But I feel like so many really want to breastfeed. And what just makes me so sad is when people feel like they can't, when they've been given the wrong information, or they've not gotten the support that they need, because they possibly could have, and they just feel, they couldn't.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's the worst,
Mm-hmm.
So.
Want to do like one more question?
Oh yeah! Wow, it's 9 o'clock already.
It's already been an hour.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
You guys, one more thing. Just make sure go over to the link here in the post. Click on the links. You guys can get your toolkit from Byram Healthcare. That working guides to breast. I can't even say it.
It's Sunday night.
It's the Breastfeeding Moms Working Guide, okay? Working Guide for Breastfeeding Moms. It's a toolkit, and it's awesome if you're going back to work, or even if you're just out on the street. You need to know your breastfeeding rights. In all 50 states, you are allowed to breastfeed wherever you want, public or private, okay? And so I just want you to be prepared and to make sure that you have what you need. There's a great little pocket guide that you can keep with you, because sometimes you need to just whip it out, and I don't mean your breath.
Yeah. Well, it's the same thing I told parents to do if they're flying with their car seat. Print the rules.
Exactly.
Have it on hand, have it in your diaper bag, mm-hmm. so that way if the flight attendant or somebody wants to give you grief, you're like, exactly. I have receipts.
Exactly. There you go. That's what I'm talking about. Like having it there for you. Plus, when you do the link, you're also entered for the Sarah Wells bag too, which is super nice.
Yeah, make sure you enter for the bag. We love Sarah Wells.
Mm-hmm.
So, and Ruby is upset because she's late. If you're late, it does not matter. This video will live on my Facebook. So you can always go to the video section. Everything is there. You can always.
And we're going to be doing this monthly coming up. So we'll be back. We'll be back. And you guys can all come leave your questions, and we'll keep answering for you.
And go to Shari's page. Mm-hmm. She, this is what she does all week.
Oh,
Same bat time, same bat channel.
absolutely.
You
No,
know?
come join and come here this week because we are going to be doing a whole bunch of live streams and Q&As. Miss Dawn's going to be with me and Lisa Palladino. And also we're going to be launching the membership. The My Baby Experts membership is starting. So this is your chance if you want to get in right now with us. Only 4 days. We're only going to have it open for 4 days right now. So
Cool.
I'm excited. Jamie,
I'm just keeping my mouth shut because I know a lot of the stuff that's going on at the site, and I don't know how much I'm at liberty to share. So
we're ready to share. We're about to start talking about it this week. This is it. It's beautiful. It's wonderful. It's ready to go. And yeah, we're going to have some really great stuff going on. And you know how long it's been a long time in the making, but it's finally here. So I'm really excited to invite everybody over. So yay. Thanks. Yeah, Ruby's joined us over on our Q&As. Yes.
Okay, so Monica, we got one more question, and then we'll call it a night.
Oh, and David's here. David's here from Byram Healthcare. He put the link
awesome.
right there for the Working Mom's Guide to Breastfeeding. Thank you, David.
Thanks, David. Monica Johnstone has a question. What products are best to increase supply? Is it possible with my flat nipples? Does the milk come out slower? Sometimes with my son, I'd be on the pump for 2 hours to get 3 ounces. I didn't have much advice. Now I'm going to have a baby in September and want to have things in case I need them to get more milk. Well, game on for doing like prep work and wanting round 2 to go a little better for you.
The most important thing you could do, getting ready now, you know, and I would really, if you had flat nipples before and you struggled with supply or latching, to me, what it sounds like is that if you're struggling with getting the milk out, it has to do with the size of the flange that you're using. And sometimes not having the right flange size can be the biggest problem in causing you to not get milk to come out. We've talked about this a lot when we talk about breast pumps. Flange sizing is one of the most important things you can do. So especially if the nipple's really flat, you may not be noticing like how it's sized to your nipple. And so that's something I would just get help with a lactation consultant. You can't, this idea that you can somehow, have you seen these tools that people are using where they try to measure their nipple with like a guide? And like they're
like the little like color ruler thing.
Yeah. It doesn't work like that, okay? Because the nipple at rest is not the same nipple that when it's put into a pump. And so this idea that you could just hold up some paper like sizing guide and decide on what flange size you need based on that, it doesn't work that way. It's a good try, you know, but when you go and put it into the flange and you turn the suction on, depending on the elasticity of the breast tissue, depending on so many different factors, the fullness of the breast, all these things cause the nipple to react in a certain way, and you need to see it in action. So, you know, it could be that she probably didn't have the flange fitting well. For pumping for 2 hours to get 3 ounces is not normal.
Yeah.
Okay, so I would just go get help from a lactation consultant. Work with the lactation consultant, first of all, on your latch, because it can be difficult with flat nipples, but not impossible for sure. And they can help you to do that. And then also while you're there, make sure that they're sizing you properly with the pump on. Not just looking at your nipple. You can't measure it. You have to try it to see what's right. A lot of people don't know flanges come in different sizes.
Nope.
Especially when it only comes with one flange in the box. And so then
some pumps only make one, period.
Exactly. And that's not a pump, and that's not a pump that you would want. So
sorry, hold on 1 hot second. Okay. I'm gonna go get something really quick because I have a house guest who wants to say goodbye. He's been a very good boy.
You're leaving? Okay.
Just hold 1 second. I'm right here.
So
Max.
It's Max? This dog is so cute and he's so big. He's so big. I was looking at that picture you have of him where you're holding. Oh my God. He's just like Lucky.
Just like yours.
My dog is 4 pounds.
Your dog is the size of his foot.
My dog is like half the size of his head. Half. His whole body. his whole body.
I mean, he's like a giant Muppet dog.
He's so cute, but he's
crazy.
he looks so much like my dog, just like this massive size.
A massive version of it. Yeah. Yeah.
It's kind of amazing that they're the same species, isn't it?
Oops. Yeah.
It's kind of amazing.
I'm ready. I love when I get to dog sit him, but it is a whole lot when you live in an apartment and you don't really have. I'm not comfortable enough because he's not my dog to like go to a dog park and let him run off the leash.
Yeah.
So he gets antsy as all get out, and I get sad and like I don't have a place. I live downtown Denver. I don't have like a yard.
You've had him a lot lately, huh?
I haven't really got to dog sit him like this in a bit. I've had him since Thursday, I think. Yeah. Because Jennifer and Greg and the kids went up to Steamboat Springs because they all start school again tomorrow.
Gotcha.
So he leaves my apartment tomorrow evening, and I will be sad, but I will also not hear barking, and I will not have to deal with the poop.
That massive.
It's very large. It's very large. Mm-hmm.
Heard about this poop.
Not cute. Not cute. And there's one particular place on the walk that is cursed. And it's by a restaurant where people eat outside. And it's not cute to me as a human. And it's embarrassing.
Would you have to bring like a big garbage bag with you?
I used to bring real garbage bags and not like the little poop bags that are like biodegradable or whatever. Because I don't like it. It grosses me out a lot. Jamie Grayson, have thrown up several times picking the Max poop up. But I'm getting better now. I do always travel. When I walk him, I carry a few strips of paper towel to put down. So, you know.
I just got this image of you walking down the street with a big garbage bag on your hand.
Oh, it's gross. It's gross. It's like a little plastic puppet hand. And you put the paper towel down and then you.
That's why I got a 4-pound dog. He's really cute, though. He's really cute, Max. Yeah. I have to say, he's a really cute dog.
It's pretty great.
All right.
Awesome. Well, I think on that note,
on that big poop. I don't know how we ended on poop, but we did. We managed to end on dog poop, but it was really good breastfeeding Q&A. I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as we did. Thank you, Jamie.
We'll be doing this again next month. So thank you all for hanging out. Make sure you're following Shari on the channels of the social land, and pay attention because things are in the works. So
absolutely, big week coming up. So
yeah,
thank you guys. Good to see you.
Yeah, and I'll see all of y'all later.
Okay.
My eyes don't hurt anymore, so that's good.
Go take care of those eyes. My mouse stopped working. I can't shut off the stream.
I'm going to shut mine off.
Oh, there we go. Okay, hold on. It started working again. I think we're stuck here for the whole night.
Oh, well. We'll get someone else to cook.
All right. Bye.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.